Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
Welcome, revolutionaries, to another episode of the Customer Service Revolution. And today I have Ricky Arriola, the founder and CEO of Inktel, one of the country's leading customer experience and business process outsourcing firms. Inktel provides outsourced customer experience solutions to Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, educational institutions, and consumer brands. Its services include omnichannel, contact center support, sales, order management, back office processing, government BPO services, and fulfillment. The company has been repeatedly recognized as a best place to work. Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you, John. You're a great hype man. I'd like to have you introduce us for all of our client presentations and anything else we're doing.
We can arrange that. We can arrange that. I'm excited, Ricky. I feel like you're my new best friend. The past couple months, I've been working with Inktel. I come in, did a presentation, and we just hit it off. And I love your energy. I love your passion for the customer experience and business. And you've given me so many great items, just texting back and forth, great articles, just stuff that I try to do for people. You're all over it. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, the feeling's mutual, John. I think I mentioned to you when we first met in person, your first book that I read, I've read like probably 3 or 4 of your books now, which was the Customer Service Revolution. Just, struck a chord with me. I'm like, okay, this is like a mind meld. This guy, thinks exactly how I think. And then your employee revolution, employee service revolution is the same damn thing. It's just like exactly how we've been building our company. Same principles, same lingo. I mean, even the same sort of source documents and thinkers that I think you follow and that have influenced you. We think a lot alike. On top of that, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. So yeah, I think I've met, someone who I'm going to be friends with a very long time.
Yeah. And other things I have down here to ask you later, I want to end with, but like even your passion for fitness, I respect that. And parenting and those things are so hard for busy, probably for anyone. I don't want to discount anyone being a parent, but especially for busy entrepreneurs, that have all this on the plate. But tell our listeners how you got started in all this.
Yeah, well, the sort of the organizing principle for myself and my brother Dan, who's my partner and co-founder, just sort of entrepreneurial DNA. Our dad was an entrepreneur. Our grandfathers, similarly, entrepreneurs, own their own business. I was thinking about this before we started this morning. It's like, okay, John's going to ask me very likely this question. The other thing is, we grew up in Miami, and Miami.
I've never heard of anybody growing up in Miami.
There are a lot of us, but that's true. Like most people aren't from
transplants. Yeah.
Miami's population, 50%, I think it's better than 50% of residents in Miami were born in another country. And so think about that for a second. 50% of your population wasn't even born in the United States. Okay. And then of the ones that were born in the United States, how many were born in Miami? So yeah, we are a minority in terms of homegrown, even though, there are a lot of us. So you think about that and growing up down here, it was and is an entrepreneurial culture, right?
Yeah.
So a part of it, that's the immigrant story, right? You come to country, you know, you're not going to get the first crack at the big corporate jobs, and you're not sort of in the sort of, you know, zeitgeist of, you know, going to the right schools and country clubs and all that. Everyone here is an entrepreneur, you know, but when we were growing up, it was so like, it never, for myself, and I think I speak for Dan, we never thought we were going to be like corporate executives, you know, working up the corporate ladder. It was, you're going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's the family DNA. Then the question is, okay, when are you going to become an entrepreneur? Are you going to do it in your 20s, 30s, what have you? And then, you know, what kind of business are you going to start? And so like, we just knew we were going to be entrepreneurs. And then, you know, we sort of got into our business.
And when you say we, you and your brother Dan started Inktel?
We had a third brother in it as well.
Okay.
Eddie, who actually was the founder, and then he went on to go start a bank, a very successful community bank here.
So I'm talking to the wrong brother.
You're talking to the wrong brother. So you know, we got into it. Like one thing I tell entrepreneurs, you know, besides sort of having a great business plan and money and all this, the best thing you can do is start your business with a customer, you know, for a lot of reasons. One is if you have a customer, your customer is going to pay your bills, and your customer is going to help fund your business. And also, more importantly, it's going to help you build your business in terms of like satisfying your customer needs. You're going to make your mistakes, you're going to correct them, and you'll eventually start developing really good processes and systems to service your customers, right? A lot of folks start with a business plan, or they raise a bunch of money, and then they go try to find a problem to be solved, or they go try to find clients. And in the meantime, they run out of cash, or they just never get out of the ideation phase of, hey, I got a great business plan, but I can't get off home plate. In our case, Dan and I were able to have and my brother Eddie were able to start the business having a client or two to start the business. And we actually started in the fulfillment business, which is just warehousing and moving stuff around a warehouse.
Is that what's it called? Yeah, 3PL. And so how did it come to Inktel and a contact center, a third-party contact center?
Yeah. So the origin is, you know, started as fulfillment, moving printed material. Our father was a printer. That's how we were able to latch on to clients. He had needs that his clients had needs. Someone had warehoused all the printed material that was being printed and created. So then that started a fulfillment business. Pre-internet, early days of the internet, you know, if you needed something, you had to call, really, even before emails, or fax. It was a lot of faxes back then. So we actually started a little back office with fax machines. We'd take in orders and then fulfill it, ship out printed material. That led to phones. And then, you know, that was the genesis of a call center, you know, basically just answering phone calls from people who needed catalogs and printed material shipped to them. And then, you know, one thing led to another, saying, okay, the call center's grown. We've got a bunch of people answering phones and receiving faxes. Let's try to offer this to new clients who don't necessarily have maybe fulfillment needs, but they have the needs to have somebody answering their phones. One thing led to another, and the timing back in the late 90s was good because the call center business was booming, particularly outbound telemarketing. Remember the telemarketing days?
Yeah.
So we got in the telemarketing business for many years until that kind of just fell off a cliff with the do not call legislation. And then we sort of started morphing into a customer service organization. And then eventually, you know, we sold out of the PL fulfillment business, and we've been, you know, for the past 25, 26 years, you know, a call center oriented business, omnichannel. So whether it's phone, whether it's email, chat, what have you, we'll do it all for our client, primarily centered around the customer experience, customer service. We also do, you know, other back office type services, you know, logistics, helping with billing, things like that, but primarily geared around customer service and, you know, holding ourselves out as the experts in delivering world-class customer care.
So this might have been the reason why, but you chose a very tough industry, a very tough business model, right? The saying goes, why would you outsource your phones to a third party when it's hard enough to get your own employees under your own roof bought into your thing? You know, do you think a third party is going to be more bought in? But you guys have done something. I mean, your growth, But I got to see it firsthand after working with you, but then coming in and speaking to your leadership team. I was so pleasantly surprised. Like I could tell immediately they got it, which allowed me to move faster. And it went from, customer service 1.0 to within 5 minutes. Oh, this could be, this is masterclass stuff, and the energy and the obsession. How is Inktel different than, the traditional outsourced third-party contact center?
Yeah. I think you said it in your phrasing there. Our industry, we benefit, Inktel benefits from an industry in which the bar of excellence is very low. Okay. So our competition, it just has a very low bar for what they consider satisfactory customer service. A lot of companies that outsource have made the decision they can't do it themselves. Otherwise they'd be doing it. And so they need to partner. So, you know, the the market for folks that are doing this well, it's very small. I mean, because a lot of they all have the slogans on their website and their presentations, but they actually suck at doing it because I don't want to say it's hard because I think we do it extremely well and it's not hard for us, but it's easier said than done because you have to day in and day out be committed to excellence, and you have to have the right people. Find them, train them, keep them motivated, keep them focused. You have to have the right processes and systems in place, and then the right monitoring on top of that, and then constantly be calibrating and retraining and using technology to drive these results. For us, it's I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it is easy. We're good at it. For a lot of companies, that's just not how they look at this. They just look at butts and seats, how much can they bill and at, the best price they can get. And, that's how they run their organizations. We're a culture first company. We spend a lot of time in selecting our team, training them, keeping them motivated, keeping them focused. And that's a lot of effort. It's a ton of my time. It's just spent on employee stuff. And, the philosophy is take care of your employees. They're going to take care of your clients and your clients' customers. And, it's why we spend so much on training and reaching out to leaders like yourself to keep the team refreshed with the best ideas, cutting edge thoughts and training, as well as technology.
So was it, how old is Inktel?
We started in the very late 90s. So what are we, they have 26, 27 years, how.
Yeah. And so, day one prior, was it you and it's two brothers, obsession back then, the customer experience, or did that start evolving, realizing if we don't, make that our competitive differentiate, we're going to be like everyone else in the outsourcing business?
Yeah. We were a culture obsessed company from the get-go. I think, watching the kind of business, my father was a printer and he had a really great organization, great culture, sort of that was the blueprint of like a really great culture. People loved working for him.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So cool. I mean, just, you stereotype that generation and you don't think that, they cared as much about or saw the value but that just probably was who he was.
That is who he was and is.
Yeah.
Then also, I don't know, at least for me, and I think I speak for my brothers too, like just companies we admired. And then it's like, what's the commonality, whether you're at Disney or a Starbucks or a Ritz-Carlton, like they're in different businesses, but they're actually organized around the same principles, which is the customer experience, a dedication to excellence. And so like when so success leaves clues, right? So if you're studying, whether it's athletes or companies, regardless of industry or sport, they all have sort of common threads. Athletes obviously train really hard. They're dedicated to their craft. They take care of their bodies, and companies, they take care of their employees. They're dedicated to their customers. They have values. Like, okay, so let's build our company based on those fundamental building blocks. And regardless of whatever industry or business we started or start, we've had a number of other endeavors. It's always been with those building blocks. And that's the recipe for success. You're not always going to make it, but you want to tilt the odds heavily in your favor. So if you're taking care of your employees, you're taking care of your clients, you're organizing around good, strong corporate values. And you don't pick a horrible industry and you don't overlever, you're gonna be in a good spot.
Yeah, yeah. And I heard a quote recently. Now I'm forgetting if it's Alex Hormozy or Tim Grover, but they said, I think it's Tim Grover. They said people are constantly studying the top, 2% in whatever sports, business, blah, 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 trying to figure out what they have that the rest don't. And he said, that's not it. It's not what they have. It's what they don't have that the rest don't. And it's an off button. And I get that with you. And I'm like that. I'm always thinking, and like I'm texting people, and I'm getting texts from you, and it could be, hey, another thing about when you come in, I just thought of this, or you're, in a great way, love this, blowing up my text box with just great gems and articles and videos. And, I could just tell you eat, sleep, and drink this.
Yeah.
And you love it. I mean, you love it. And you could tell that's why your people do. There's something I want to ask.
They get bombarded by me all hours of the night, the weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
And I curate everything I send out, to people. Not everyone's on a blast. It's like, John will like this. And,
Yeah.
Lou will like this, and Dan will like this, Jason will like that.
Well, and that's what, in a little bit, when I ask you about how you consume information, right? And that's so important. I think that's a key differentiator is, what are you feeding your brain? How, what roles? It's drastically shifting from long form reading to podcasts and audiobooks and videos. But something I ask you, trying to stay in order of this, you've had incredible growth. But as we all know, and every entrepreneur wants growth. I want 10 times growth. Growth comes with problems. And I always say nothing will ruin a brand's customer experience and culture faster than rapid growth, right? I mean, I remember when we started the salons 30 some years ago and we needed another receptionist. Oh, I'd interview 15, 20 people to find that perfect receptionist. And we probably got pretty close. Now you fast forward 10, 15 years and we need, 25 people. Well, we're interviewing 27. The only reason why we interviewed 27 was 2 of them didn't want the job. It's just, you start, it's so hard not to compromise because we're losing so much money by not having those 25 people. If we just could take, have those, we'd be, doubling our sales again. And that's so intoxicating, but I think every entrepreneur has found out the hard way. Sometimes it's better to lose the sales than the reputation. If you call and say, we want to hire you guys as consultants. And I'm like, shit, we're fully, but I got someone in training. I think he's good enough. And I give him to you because I want to take advantage of this 6-figure contract. We're never going to recover from what you expected and what you got. And not only that, now you're telling every IPOer and every CEO, but we all struggle with it. How did you fall into that trap and how did you avoid it? Because while growth is intoxicating, man, there's a lot of landmines.
I mean, so the adage, it's important to sort of know, adages, right? Good organizing principle. Few companies die from starvation. More companies die from indigestion. You bite off more than you can chew, right? A lot of trouble happens when you take on more than you can chew, either, too many projects or you're taking your organization in a different direction. So, trying to be disciplined in who you are and what your goals are, really important. And it applies very much to growth and scaling. Scaling culture is really hard to do.
Maybe the hardest thing to do in business, if that's your focus. I mean, we could hire 100 people tomorrow to answer phones, but it won't be the right 100.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, yeah. Not to get too off topic. You look at some companies. Intel, the chip manufacturer, was one of America's most revered companies through the 90s and going into the early 2000s. And they had some great leadership. Leadership retired or passed, and then I think the leadership was ultimately the problem. But their manufacturing prowess was what they were known for. Great innovation, great manufacturing prowess. They somehow lost their leadership, and the culture was secondary. And then, I think when they started getting a lot of competition, they struggled because they didn't have the culture to reinvent themselves and to bring back the innovation that had made
Well, it's the Blockbuster, Kodak,
100%.
Circuit City,
You rest on your laurels.
What worked yesterday isn't working today.
Another adage for you, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah, I love that.
Same thing. So like for me and my brother, culture's a great strategy. Just focus on the culture and the other stuff will come and go. So anyway, growth is not linear. It doesn't just go like this. It's very choppy. Sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's been our case as well. I mean, we've had a lot of success and then something happens and then you move forward a little back, whether it's external like a recession or our own indigestion. So our focus has been and remains culture, people, and then just training and training and training, because you never know when you're going to get that really huge contract that's sort of like, we don't have all the people we need. We don't have all the things we need. We got to scramble and build it. You don't want to make a mistake. And so you really got to rely on your foundational elements, the people you have and their ability to train sort of the next generation, duplicate all of our processes and systems so that we can continue to service our clients the way we have for the past 30 years. So, like even, whenever there's a slow period, train. Like you were here in August, that's a typical, summer lull where people are on vacation. Bring in John. Let's train the team. Like, be smart. Right now, we're super busy heading into the fourth quarter. No time to breathe. That's fine. Everyone's trained, rested, ready. And so that's how we view, whenever we're in a, growth spurt, everyone's got to be ready to execute. Everyone's well trained and, just go execute.
Yeah. And you don't train when you need it. You don't hire when you need it. You do it always. And it'll take care of itself. All right, let's get to the brass tacks. This is what people want to know. 2 things. I want you to give me specific examples. We've teased them with how great your customer experience is.
Yep.
And we've teased them with how your commitment to the culture, the employee experience is. Can you give some examples of both of what Inktel does to be world-class consistently at customer service and get companies to keep working with you and refer, and why you've grown so fast?
Thank goodness, when we sign on a client, we keep them a very long time, and very long time for life is a good goal. And a lot of that's because, again, we have a lot of organizing principles. For our clients, one of the things we want to make sure is, ease of doing business. You hire and engage Inktel, we're going to make it very easy to deal with us, meaning, the answer is yes. What's the question, right? That's a phrase you use and we've lifted. The advantage of being in this a very, very long time and then dedicating ourselves to best practices gleaned from world-class organizations like all the blue chips that I've previously mentioned. We will develop for any client program that is dedicated to best practices around training, around recruiting, around the deliverables that our clients want, whether it's one call resolution, average handle time, call abandonment, all the things that are important to our clients. And then build a great team, great leadership team that's interviewed by me, trained, refresh training all the time, real-time reporting, great technology so their clients know in real time what's happening with their program, do lots of calibrations, no surprises, and then just a dedication to world-class customer care. We've got internal systems so that the focus on world-class is constant, whether it's around incentives, competition, recognition, refresher training throughout the day, week, month, quarter. And that goes to the thing we've been talking a lot about, developing a culture so that it's in our DNA to deliver world-class customer care. So a lot of times when clients are coming to us, they've had bad experiences from other BPOs. We love that because their expectation, the bar's low, and we just blow them away. They're like, we didn't know that a company like yours existed. We didn't know it could be this good. We didn't know that it would be so sort of easy to do business with a third party that it's not our culture. They're outsourcing, right? So they worry about, are you going to understand what we're about? Are you going to understand our corporate values?
Hey, listen, they're handing over their baby to you. And, every entrepreneur who has worked, their life to get their brand to what it is today. And, in essence, you have additional layer of customer, right? You are who's ever calling you, the call center, contact center is your customer, which is your client's customer. But you also have to please the client that hired you to do this. And that's a lot of moving parts.
Yep. We have one thing that we do with everyone here is that one of the things in life that people, in terms of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as you sort of move up the pyramid, people want to connect to a purpose, right? It's part of what makes life enriching and rewarding. If you're not connected to a purpose, your life is not as fulfilling as it might otherwise be. What we tell our team here is that you've got a gift that you get the opportunity to make someone's day. Okay, what does that mean, Ricky? Well, it means this. In any given day, one of our customer service representative, brand ambassadors, they're taking 40, 50, 60 interactions, whether it's email and chat and phone or whatever. Typically, when these inputs are coming in, more often than not, the expectation's low from the person making the inquiry, because the customer service bar in general is so low. It's not always pleasant. I know that when I call, even for reservations at a restaurant, I'm not really expecting to be overwhelmed. I'm expecting to get somebody who's busy and really doesn't want to be answering calls. So, you got an advantage where whatever's coming in, the expectation is going to be low. It's also the case that person's probably stressed, confused, angry, and you don't know what's happening in that person's life. They're stuck in traffic. They're panicked that an order is lost and their spouse is going to be pissed, or their kid's going to be upset, or it's someone whose car's broken down on the side of the road and they're scared or in really need of help. We work with a lot of emergency management agencies at the state and federal level. People are in really, bad state. You've got the opportunity to turn around that person's day just by, being pleasant, but solving their problem. And making their stress go away. That's a heck of a purpose that someone has. And you've got 30, 40, 60 interactions, opportunities a day to really turn someone's day around. I think every single person has known, or had a situation where they're in a funk and someone smiles at them or just says hi or thank you. And it snaps you out of that funk.
Yeah.
So what we tell our folks is like, look, you've got this gift that, you can make someone's day just by being excellent at your job, and excellence in this space, because the bar is so low. It's not like you have to like do something Herculean. It's just like stick to the basics that we train you on, and you rest your head at night knowing that, you turn someone's life around for that day. And that's a great gift that we have, and great opportunity that we have.
I love that. I think we, as a business culture today, we're void of purpose. And, the currency for the younger generation is purpose. And they're not willing to trade hours for dollars, but they'll walk through a fire if they feel like, they are genuinely impacting, the results of their job, is so important. And you talked about employee morale, culture, and constantly training them, doing a great job of the selection process. What else allows Inktel to have such low turnover compared to everyone else in their industry?
We do a lot of things, like culturally, a lot of teamwork team building, sharing, learning. When workforce now is very much work from home, our management team is all on premise. We're all together, but the customer service reps and brand ambassadors, the market is mostly just work from home. So the significant drawback to that is, we don't get to spend physical time together like we used to. We used to have centers all over the country pre-pandemic, and there you could do birthday celebrations and call outs and stuff like that. So, a lot of that now is be done virtually. So it just presents a different challenge, but it's the same fundamental principles we did physically in our offices. We now do virtually in terms of recognition and competitions and birthday celebrations, anniversary celebrations. And so we do a lot of that to bring people together, training and investment in their well-being, and obviously, corporate level stuff in terms of, good benefits, retirement plans, promotions, salaries, bonuses, all of those things are obviously very important.
Yeah. And listen, the number one topic these days is AI. How is Inktel incorporating AI, and what's the next 5 years look like, as well as your crystal ball can see it, of how contact centers will evolve with AI?
Yeah. So we use AI in every facet of our business, and meaning in every single department, whether it's, finance and accounting, HR, training, recruiting, like myself. It's the business development team. We're using the tools just to increase productivity. So productivity skyrockets here at Inktel and everything that we do for service delivery. Since the 3 years now that AI has been on the scene, just enhancing the customer service experience, getting resolution for customer inquiries, faster, more thoroughly.
So is it like AI's listening to our call? You, the customer, throw something at me that, I don't know off the top of my head. And instead of having this long, pregnant pause while I look it up, AI can make it appear much quicker. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I mean, you name it. We're using AI. We're experimenting with we've got nearshore and offshore teams. So accent neutralization, helping our brand ambassadors understand what an inquiry is, whether it's chat or email, more thorough in the response that one would typically get with links, with sources, whatever. Obviously, we can record a call. We do record calls and then run that through an AI filter to evaluate, critique how a call went, and then share that with the agent so that they can learn and get better for the next time. So AI tools are just fast and furious coming down the pike. And we're trying to take advantage of all those opportunities to make ourselves better in our service delivery.
What's the minutia that it could take off that, frees up the agent A to doesn't want to do that minutia. It's not the fun part of the job, but frees them up for the critical part that the human is needed, putting out a fire, coming to the rescue, building a rapport. What's the minutia that's getting taken off their plate?
All of the admin stuff that, technology should be able to eliminate. For example, when you call your bank or, your insurance company, they should know that you're John DiJulius in Cleveland. Why are you giving them all of your data?
Yeah.
What AI should and can do are those kinds of things so that we can get to the core of what your issue is. But, you're spending all this time going through minutia and administrative work that technology should be handling. So that's what AI at a minimum should be doing. Now, if you ask me, how's AI in our industry, I would tell you shockingly 3 years into this, it ain't good. Just in your own experience, ask yourself, you call your bank, you call
chat box. Yeah.
It sucks. They still, like myself, when I have to deal with, anybody I do business with, they have not automated the things that need to be automated.
Yeah.
And then passing the handoff from, one department to the other, it's still not there.
And then you got to answer the same questions all over again.
Oh yeah. It's so, you would think that AI has made more headway than it has. And the truth is, the dirty little secret is it hasn't. It hasn't disrupted our industry the way one would think.
So you got leaders, CEOs on the on listening, and they don't want to just talk about building a world-class customer experience organization. They want to do it. What's your 3-point plan? Where do they start?
Well,
Hire Inktel.
yeah, engage Intel. That's the first one. Numbers 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, I think if I'm a CEO and I need to, take my customer service experience to the next level, one is the executive buy-in. You have to be committed to a standard and have a view towards excellence at customer care. That commitment, then you sort of define it, and then everything will roll from there. What I think you see a lot of happening in corporate America, it's lip service, right? So, like you and
Flavor of the month, program of the year, management by bestseller.
man, it's so
Hey, let's read fish and let's do that.
It's so prevalent in
Right.
corporate America. You see companies, publicly traded companies, stating their quarterly results, and it's literally flavor of the month.
Yeah.
It's been AI for the past 3 years, and back in the beginning of the second quarter, it was all the tariffs and stuff. Like, they don't see through everything, right? Like, companies that are well run have certain fundamentals. Among those are, dedicated to your employees, dedicated to your clients, dedicated to corporate values. But no, it's flavor of the month with a lot of
Yeah.
But to answer your question, if a CEO or executive leadership, if they're truly committed to customer care, world-class customer care, that's a really good strategy. That's almost foolproof to put your company in a good position vis-a-vis their competitors. If they're dedicated to that, then everything will flow through there, whether they want to try to do it internally or engage consultants or BPOs like Inktel. You hire us because we're really good at what we do, and we'll put the program together. We'll put the leadership team together. We'll put the structure together so that we can deliver that excellence. But I think what you find is, there's a lot of lip service out there.
Right.
They say something, they won't put the resources behind it. They don't really know or have a high standard of a world-class customer care looks like. And then that's why a lot of companies just sort of fall off eventually from, having a great reputation for customer service.
Yeah.
And it's just so fundamental, whether you're a restaurant, a retailer, a government. I mean, like, why wouldn't you want to be really good at this? It's actually not expensive. It's more expensive to be bad at customer service.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
go into a restaurant tonight, whether they're dedicated to it or not. And most are not. Walk into a retailer, like, how do they greet you? How do they take care of you? How do they follow up? Like,
Ricky, you're cursed when you get to the level of customer experience and the obsession. It's a curse because you could never go and just have dinner or have, get your tires replaced. And I say that's a good problem. It's like, but that's when like, why did he say that to me? Like, he didn't have to overshare that they didn't have me down for an appointment. They're dead. Right? They say, great. Just let's confirm what you're here for instead of saying, we have you next week. Well, do you have availabilities? Yeah, we're okay. It's like oversharing. But all right,
funny. You could put me or you in any company in any industry, and we may not know how to manufacture.
Yeah.
Scientific R&D, but I think we would make improvements in that company just by, like, focusing on the employees and focusing on, like, the customer service aspect. Like, we'll move the needle.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The other stuff you can figure out or hire people how to, like, be better at manufacturing or, scientific research. But, like, if you can't get the core of, like, taking care of your employees and building a great culture and taking care of customers, you're not going to get very far, or as far as you otherwise would.
Is it Francine that you're sending to the Customer Experience Executive Academy?
Francis, yeah.
And I say that I say it's going to be a curse going through this. I go, but here's what I want. When you go and you have a great experience, right? Capture what they do right. Can we do that? But when you have a horrible experience, or you read or see a video of a horrible experience, the knee-jerk reaction, I think most people's like, that company sucks. What I do is I always say, can we be guilty of that? And in some ways we can, if we're not careful, maybe not to that extreme, not that egregious, but we can make a customer wrong. when we didn't need to, to prove a point or whatever. Everything I've asked you was stuff altruistically that I wanted my audience to gain from. Now I want to be selfish and talk about things that I'm really more curious about. Life balance, what you do for professional development, how do you find, squeeze it in? Where are you consuming it? Is it reels? Is it reading? Is it listening? Is it podcasts? Your exercise routine, which I think is really important. And then, I've never had a conversation where you haven't talked about your kids, and I know that's important to you. So, let's talk about it. Let's start with professional development. How I know you consume. I say I consume professional development like Joey Chestnuts, the greatest athlete of all time, consumes hot dogs on the 4th of July. Like every opportunity, every break, every workout, every car ride, airplane, I'm listening to something. How do you do it, and what vehicles do you use?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I'm like a sponge. Like my appetite for knowledge is unquenchable. You can't quench it.
Yeah,
and it's broad. It's broad. Whether it's business, which is a huge part of my consumption. I love politics. I love history. I love sports. I love nutrition and exercise. As a parent, consume a lot of parental stuff. So it's very broad and very deep. Like my brain is always going. So it's and I take it in all forms. So I do a lot of reading. Books are
still do the traditional reading.
Yeah, paper. Yeah. For books, for sure. And there is a discipline to reading a paper book.
Yeah.
That you don't match, on a digital, even if you're reading, on your Kindle or whatever. But I read a lot on Kindle. Yeah, I do consume a lot of articles. I read the physical paper every day, several of them, newspapers, digitally as well. I get physical magazines as well as digital.
Wow.
I'm old school. I'm 56, so raised, reading newspapers and magazines. It's hard to let go of that habit.
Yeah.
And then podcasts have really become a big thing for me in the last 5-6 years. So a lot of podcasts. I do audiobooks. And then the way I sort of do it, from the moment I wake up,
consuming
and my head hits the pillow. And then the other thing is, I try to do double up. Obviously, when I'm driving, if I'm not talking on the phone, I'm listening to a podcast or a book. When I'm exercising, running, whatever, podcast or a book. And then try to keep it broad, and then try to talk to smart people, get their opinions. That's what texting's all about. Sending stuff to you, hopefully get some feedback, sharpen my thinking. And then lots of seminars. I'm, a member of YPO as well as other organizations. So formal seminars and events where you get, thought leaders coming in and talking.
And is that where we crossed paths originally?
So I don't think you and I crossed paths there, but I think you got on my radar possibly through YPO.
That's what I assume.
Decade.
Yeah.
When you got on my radar. And then I sent some of my people to your seminar.
Okay, good.
A decade ago, there in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then actually I was hoping to get together with you right around 2019. So pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Screwed up a lot of things. And then I just had the opportunity just this summer to, finally meet you in person. So.
Yeah. All right. Exercise. I could tell. That's obviously important to you. How do you fit it in? It's just, what do you like to do? And how do you make sure when you're traveling and crazy busy that doesn't slip?
Yeah. For me, I've been into exercise since I was a teenager and never gave it up. Basically it's just part of who I am, the same way being a reader is who I am. And so developed good habits around exercise and nutrition when I was young and just never gave it up. So exercise for me is not a fad. It's not something I do for 2 or 3 months, and eating well and being on a, good nutritious diet is not something that just, like I think too many people, it's a fad. I'm going to do it for a month, 90 days, and then drop off. So it's just like part of I sleep at night the same way I exercise. It's just part of
non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable is part of my daily routine. For the most part, I do it in the morning, start the day. I find that to be a really good habit. I call it a cascade habit. If I start with exercise in the morning, not only is it gotten out of the way and I don't have to worry about it, but then I'm more likely to eat a good breakfast and then therefore a good lunch and a good dinner. And then it gives me energy in the morning so I can attack work and problems with energy. It's just something more than typical. My workout routine is in the morning. There have been times when I did it at the end of the day and it worked fine, but I find for me it works better in the morning. And then, yeah, I mean, you want to take care of your health, sort of really three main things put you in the category of more likely to succeed than not is exercise, sleep, and diet. You can the sleep, you just got to get 7 or 8 hours ideally. But the diet and the exercise, you can pick your poison, whether it's yoga or weights or cardio, running, whatever, and diet, whether you're vegan or whatever, just have a healthy diet and an exercise routine and then get your sleep. It's going to take care of so many health problems that, you don't need medication and lots of stuff. In the same way you're building a company, take care of your clients, take care of your employees, and have good foundational values, you're more likely than not going to succeed as a business. Don't get too fancy, And then, when you want to take it to that upper level 1%, then you can start getting fancy, around dieting techniques and exercise techniques,
Right.
techniques, all supplements and, other things that you get psychotic about. But yeah, just basically, as an executive, you have to be the energy of your organization. So be energized, right? Have good energy around the things that I mentioned, a good diet, exercise, and sleep. So you show up to work fully engaged, your mind is right, your attitude's right, energy flows from the leader,
Yeah.
and I try to push it down as much as I can to the team. We talk a lot about exercise, diet.
Yeah.
A lot of the team has under their desks, the little treadmill so they can be on
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
and walking. In the building we're at, when we signed the lease, we said, if you want us as a tenant, you got to build a gym in the building. So we've got a gym in the building. So no excuses, for being fit in this company.
Love that. Love
Want
that.
you healthy because you're healthy. You're gonna be happy. We want you to live a long life. We want you to be there for your family. So, we don't just talk, we want people to be healthy, and we do community events centered around fitness, whether it's, 5K charity runs, and other things that we do to have fun together, build our corporate culture, but promote health and wellness.
Very similar to yours, my 4 motivating factors for a healthy lifestyle, exercise, eating, all that, sleeping, is vanity, sanity, longevity, and legacy. Vanity, how I look is important to me, right? I mean, I don't
Absolutely.
apologize for that. If I feel that I'm closer to my 10, I'm gonna have a bounce in my step. I'm gonna have confidence, all those things. Sanity, yeah. I mean, I could tell when, I'm off if I haven't gotten a good workout or a workout in 2 days because of, traveling and excuses. Longevity, whether I live, 10 more years or 30 more years, it's the quality, not necessarily the quantity. And legacy is what you're talking about is, to be the best version of myself, is not about me as much as it's about the people that depend on me, right? If I'm the best version of myself and all the things we're talking about, my 3 boys are gonna, have a better, and a role model. My, 150 employees, tens of thousands of clients, I'm not cheating them versus mind your own business. If I want to have donuts for lunch, that's none of your business. Well, it is if we're in any kind of relationship, employee to employer, spouse, whatever, you are dependent on me in some way. And if I'm being sloppy with all that, so I love that. I love that. And then parenting. Tell me about parenting, because this is, I'm raising 3 boys, and that's very important to me. I know you're very passionate about that.
Yeah, yeah. I love learning about your sons that sound extremely successful and not only just extremely successful, but I know at least one of your sons is very extreme
Yeah,
in sort of some of his activities, which is pretty
yeah.
wild.
He's like Evil Knievel.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen his Instagram. I mean, it's
I haven't. I won't watch it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, but before I had my son, who's 8, I was a little bit like that, in extreme, and then I just sort of dialed it all back because now as a father of an 8-year-old, I got to worry about my legacy and longevity. So I got to do less risky stuff than I used to. Yeah, I mean it's become the most important part of my life is being a parent. And everything I do now is through the lens of being a father and being an example and role model. And it's great fun. He's 8, so it's fun watching their awakening as they're started becoming more and more cognizant of what life's about. And then you start seeing them copy your habits. And so I want to make sure I leave good habits for him to copy. So, he is already into exercise as an 8-year-old. He's into jujitsu, but we go running together, and he's starting to pick up other habits of mine. Soon we'll start doing other training together. So I look forward to all that. Yeah, it's the greatest gift.
The one parenting thing I got a question,
Mhm.
and maybe you're doing this to toughen them up and have perseverance, but you made him a Dolphins fan. You experienced hardship at a young age.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, disappointment but being optimistic, like every Dolphin fan, you're sort of a sadist. Like every training camp, where it's like I get my hopes up. It's like Charlie Brown when Lucy takes away the ball. Like at the end of every year, I'm like, I'm not gonna fall for this shit again. And then they do it to you, you know?
Yeah.
It's the great Hootie and the Blowfish song, that line of the Dolphins make me cry. It is one of those teams that just stomp on your hopes. When I was young, the Dolphins were really good. I remember when the Dolphins were great. Marino years, about Reese years, Don Shula, but for the past 25 years, they've been miserable. And it's very obvious to any Dolphin fan, but I think, you as a Brown fan,
Yeah, I have no place to speak.
as someone who leads an organization and led, organizations, like there are building blocks to building a great organization. You may not win the Super Bowl, but you want to be in the hunt. The Dolphins just have this organizational dysfunction that the average Dolphin fan can call it. Somehow the ownership doesn't get it. The general manager doesn't get it. This team sucks because its culture sucks. The team does not want to follow this coach. It's well publicized. He lost the locker room.
The new age coach, he was so out of the, the norm, the box. It was like, oh, this might be the future. But yeah, it seemed to run its course.
But as a business, leader and CEO, you sort of look at that organization. That coach lost the locker room. We've still got 14 games to go. The team's not going to get better. Like once you lose the locker room, you're not going to get it back.
Yeah.
You basically have to blow up the team and start over with a whole new crop, because all those players are not going to forget how you've allowed people to disrespect you, how many bad decisions you've made. As an owner, and he's a very successful man, he needs to say, I got to replace this coach no matter how much I like him. This team cannot win with him. Part of the reason I like sports, I think a lot of businessmen like sports, is that it's sort of a reflection of what you're doing every day in your job. It's like you're hoping that organization get their act together and go win.
And the cool thing is, like in sports, what we did yesterday, it matters very little today. We got to start out. We got a whole nother set of customers that we got to be the best moment in what could be their worst moments of their day. Yesterday is yesterday, and we got to show up today and do it all over again.
Yeah. I mean, sports it's great as a business leader. Among the reasons I love sports, and I guess others do too. But for me, it's like, it's an organization. It's a team of people. How are they preparing? So like, same thing we're doing in business. Like, who are the players? How are you organizing them? How are you training them? How are you incentivizing them? How are you putting together a game plan? Same thing we do in business. So like when I'm watching a game, regardless of sport, I look at the coach a lot, even more than the players, because it's like, did the coach put the right team together? Like, the starting lineup, is it the right team vis-a-vis the team they're going to play? Did they prep them right? Can they make the adjustments? It's the same thing we're doing every day in business.
Yep.
Obviously I love seeing great players do their greatness, but great coaches transcend their players, right? So like, Phil Knight had great players, obviously, but he was a great coach regardless of who he had. And he was able to put together winning teams. And, you see great coaches bring the greatness regardless of the team and, the retirement of players. They can keep
Right.
vision moving forward. Of course, you need a little bit of luck. You got to get a Dan Marino or a Joe Burrow or, these guys that you got to land in your lap. But a lot of times you don't get those guys and you still have to make a winning team.
But I also believe that if Tom Brady or Josh Allen or maybe any of those guys were drafted by the Browns, we wouldn't know who they are. We wouldn't, you'd be like, Tom Brady, who's that?
I think you're right about that. I think you're right about that.
Because on the opposite end,
as great as there are, the organization is not right. It's not gonna matter. They may have their own excellence. They'll have great gaudy stats, but they won't win.
Yeah, that's what I use of why I'm not a household name. It was the coaching. It was the coaching. Ricky, how can people find out more about Inktel and or you?
Well, Inktel, www.inktel.com, and hopefully we'll have that on in the links below. And then it's the same. We're on every social media: LinkedIn, IG, Facebook, Twitter. So follow us there. And then my own name, you can just follow me on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay. I'm going to put all those links in here. We are speaking to Ricky Arriola, the founder and CEO of Inktel, one of the country's leading customer experience and business processing outsourcing firms. I've got to experience them up front by working with them. Hopefully you sent the final payment before, because I don't want to say this before you did this, may have learned more from you and your team than I probably taught you. Love the culture, love the energy. It comes from you. Ricky, I really appreciate you being on today, sharing all your experiences and just, what you bring to the industry.
Thanks, John. It's great catching up to you. Well, I think for the rest of this season anyway, commiserate on the Browns and the Dolphins, and
yeah.
Maybe next year.
All right, revolutionaries, we'll be right back after this.
Becoming the brand customers can't live without is a team effort. Want to get everyone on board and bought into becoming a world-class brand? Consider bringing John in live or virtually for a keynote or workshop. Email Claudia@thedijuliusgroup.com for more information.
Hey there, revolutionaries. Are you listening? Are you out there? We really want your feedback. We want to know if you're enjoying the Customer Service Revolution podcast. Do you like the content we've been producing? Do you like the guests that are on? If you enjoy an episode, please give us a thumbs up, write a review, send your feedback in. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks for being part of the Customer Service Revolution.